And that guy's one of 3 that came in yesterday. We got some headlights and a whole drive line for the white car. We got maybe 100 parts yesterday. My dad took the white car up early this morning. Kenan took his. Mine's at the shop. The 530 still getting in alignment. The 540 is about to be road tested. So that puts me in the F-body today. Guess my foot wasn't on the brake. It's Friday in paradise. We've got a busy one. What else is new? Let's see, seating position 2. See if that still works for me. I'm going to stop and pick up more parts on the way in and then get to work, probably on the 545 and the Alpine White 01 today. Okay, I got to hit the road here, but we've been working like crazy all day on this today. We got the drive shaft out, rebuilt the drive shaft, rebuilt the shifter bushings, every single piece in there, every fluid in the car, exhaust off, hardware, we got new bushings there. It's almost 6 o'clock, so we've been going. My dad came up about 8 o'clock, so big day in. The drive shaft's back in and torqued to spec with all new stuff. The shifter feels great. I've got a couple more fluids to put in. I'm just gonna let it drain over the weekend and just drip drain. Made a big dent in the parts box, but plenty to go. Power steering lines, front control arms, brake fluid flush. Rear struts and springs. I don't know why I keep saying springs. We're replacing the struts, not the springs. All the hardware, top mounts, brake lines. Holy crap, just loads of parts. These are for Frank. Those are for somebody else, for Josh. That's for Josh. Nav stuff back there for somebody else. This is for Peter. Fluids for Saeed. Belts. That's for Henry. Headlights. Jeez, just nutty. A coffin. I'm going home. Long day. Let's talk about the M-Tech. So I'm going to take this back for the weekend. We're going to put 100 miles on it for the customer. We just finished up the 530. I got about 106 miles on that or something like that. The only imperfection we found was with the steering and alignment. Going perfectly straight down the highway. The car tracked straight just fine, but you had to have the wheel turned just a touch to the left, a couple degrees to the left, or maybe it was the right. Took it back to the alignment shop. They had it for all day yesterday, and we were able to adjust the tie rods or steering angle or whatever to get that right. So it's tracking very well now. Otherwise, short of a detail, that car is done. It's ready to go to Florida. I'd love to get it out next week. It is paid for, but we certainly need the space. I'll miss the car, but we need the space. Daniel needs to see it. It's been 5 months that he's owned the car. Put 10 grand in it, hasn't even seen it. So that's the 30. The 40 now has 6.4 miles on it. We did have to replace the power steering pump because we still got randomly really heavy steering at the extremes. Obviously I can't go to an extreme here without killing myself, but driving and parking tonight a little bit, I'll probably be able to do that. So we think this is done. We'll see in 100 miles how things go. It tracks nice and straight. It was aligned in Seattle before it came down here. And I'm going to talk about the M-Tech for a minute because it's a very different car than the M5. A lot of people say, oh, it's 95% of an M5. It got the M5 suspension. And yeah, it got more M5 stuff than a 540 Sport even. It has M5 front and rear bumpers. Yes, different grills and stuff like that in that bumper. It's got the T-bar. It has a standard 5 Series interior. The only special thing about the interior is the black headliner. It's not Alcantara, but it is a black cloth. The biggest difference you immediately feel is the steering. The steering's really slow, meaning that you need to give a lot more input to get the car to go. I don't know what the M5 is. Let's just say it's 2.5 turns lock to lock. This feels like 3 turns lock to lock. So you notice that. You also notice that the M62 only has 1 throttle body and comparatively has a very sloppy throttle feel. It's not terrible. It's an average car, but the M5 is a very sharp knife. And this feels a little bit duller in terms of the throttle. Well, it does have M5 struts. It has a different spring rate, so it's not the same ride as an M5. It does not have chassis braces like the M5 has. It's a little bit softer. Yes, it has 18-inch wheels, style 37M parallels, which are famous and fantastic wheels. You notice the standard cluster without gauge rings. It actually looks pretty cheap in my opinion. And in modern times, gauge rings do a lot to add a little bit of quality and feel to the gauge cluster, which is important. This one's base. It has no options, so I certainly miss navigation. I miss parking sensors. This we don't even have heated seats in. It's a non-cold weather pack car, although going to Florida, that's not going to be missed. You notice the standard 5 Series mirrors all around. It is really quiet. It is much quieter than even a stock M5 without any sort of muffler or X-pipe on it, which for this car is really nice. This is a luxury car that is a little bit special, offers a little bit more in the way of sport. This one being a 6-speed, you know, it is the same transmission as the M5. I think this uses a different differential. The standard 540 6-speed would have been a 281 or a 291. I think this is about a 315 or a 298, 295 or 295. I don't know. Somebody please correct me. It's a different rear end, which kind of helps. 80 miles an hour, we're at 2,500, which is a little bit less than what an M5 would be at. I feel like we'd be at about 2,700, 28 in an M5, but the M5 has another 1,000 revs to give. And then there's obviously the power difference. This car is short about 100 horsepower and about 50 pound-feet of torque, and you immediately notice that in addition to the throttle response. It's not slow by any means, but it's nowhere near an M5. I would say this is a good 60 to 65% of an M5. You know, it's a lot cheaper for a reason, although they have climbed. It's not nearly as special, though. Holy cow, is it smooth. We're going 90. It's smooth, it is quiet. It's a really, really nice, comfortable car to drive. And I really like it, though I would never recommend somebody buy one of these instead of an M5.